Welcome to episode 17 of the Wins live interview series. I'm Amie Sheridan, host and founder of Wins Media. The mission of this series is to elevate the visibility of women in sports and entertainment by creating a connected environment for authentic storytelling. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited to introduce my guest and someone I've known a very long time, Lauren Cochran, Chief of Digital Marketing for the Miami Heat. Lauren is entering her 9th season with the Heat. She oversees digital marketing and strategy by leading a talented team that turns data into dollars. Under her leadership, the Heat has experienced massive growth in social audience and record-breaking sales in online retail. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
We're so glad to have you here. And so before we get going, you were in Philly for a really long time, and we just kind of checked in on that. So you're from the Philadelphia area, but you've been down in Miami for 9 years. You ever going to come back?
I do come back a lot, actually. It's funny because my parents just sold their house that I grew up in, but obviously, like my village, my network, everything is up there. So I feel very attached to the Philadelphia area, and I always enjoy the time that I come back. But it's wild that I've been down here so long and doesn't even feel like it's been 9 years.
I know, because I think the last time I saw you in person was probably at the Wells Fargo Center.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably so long ago. Last time I was at the Wells Fargo Center was for like an Amie Schumer concert. I came back probably, oh my God, it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago now.
Wow.
So
yeah. So prior to being at the Heat, Lauren was with the Flyers for a long time doing somewhat of the similar thing, right? So digital marketing for the team. Now in a role with the NBA, which is really exciting, down in Miami with the Heat. So we'll get into that today. And so to start off with, I like to start where you are today.
Sure.
What's hot down there in Miami? What's going on in your world, particularly within your purview of digital marketing on the day-to-day?
Well, as you know, aside from the temperature, we're actually really excited right now because we are about to launch. I was telling you at midnight on Sunday, we're going to launch our City Edition jersey. And we're coming like hot off the tails of a really, really successful run with our Vice City Edition uniform. And uniforms are huge for us. So this uniform is different. It's the first in professional sports where the players got to select their number set. So you won't see the same thing on each player. And then we're giving fans the opportunity to customize those jerseys too. So fans can choose from over 5,200 different combinations, and it's going to be really exciting to see it all play out. We're all heads down working and really trying to nail this launch. So very excited about it, but that's really like the big exciting thing that's happening for us this week, and it'll carry us through the season.
Right. So when you say carrying through, you mean the sales of the jerseys, a huge revenue stream for you on the e-commerce front all season long?
I would say so in retail, I mean, Miami does it right, and they've done it right since the day I got there. They run their own operation, which a lot of teams don't do. They don't bring the skill set in-house. They outsource it to different companies, the Fanatics, the Aramarks, and stuff like that. But since I got there, they did their own thing, and they went through championships and did really well. But in the marketing department, we found that there would be more opportunities. So the Heat have been amazing at creating jerseys. They don't rely on the Nikes and the Adidas to design them. We have an in-house creative team that does amazing work. So you don't see that a lot on teams. But we really leaned into the e-com and breaking the walls down of bricks and mortar stores, and knew that our audience was big enough and that we had a lot of opportunity in that space. So we really lean in, and we don't just sell a jersey. We sell a uniform. We sell all of the apparel and everything that you could possibly want, the novelties and the knickknacks, everything related to the jersey. But I mean, there's hundreds of SKUs that we're putting on sale, and it really drives our business. We were less than $1 million online when I first started, and now we're $15 million business online. So making huge strides. Yeah, making huge strides. And I'm really excited about what's to come, because I think that we're just scratching the surface right now.
That's really interesting. That's a lot of information I didn't know. So thank you for sharing all that. So
Of
you're
course.
15x right
Yeah.
now from the day you started.
Yeah,
Congratulations
and
to
I
you.
started in the LeBron time, so that just gives you an idea. Like those were top
Wow.
championships, and what they were doing then was huge and revolutionary. So I mean, they've come a long way, and kudos to everybody who just had an open mind and we tried things, and we keep making adjustments and keep getting bigger.
That's awesome. Follow-up question on that. I'm interested in how much of a role your players, your team plays in the success of your digital strategy. So whether that's e-com or that's social, what have you. I mean, how much do you interface with the team, the players on social?
A ton, a ton. I'd say we've come so far. It used to be that we were the annoying people taking pictures or coming in with a huge camera. And every year the NBA has you do a business of basketball with the players. And we got really smart with how we were able to align our business strategies with something that the players found of interest to them. Our CMO does the presentation, he pitches the uniforms, and he really sells them on what we can bring to them. And it helps that we have a really robust digital strategy. And it helps that some of the players that come in might not have the followings that like the big three era might have had, but what we can bring to the table for them is to help their business too. So them understanding where we're coming from and how we can help them has really helped them buy into. Our content team, our social team do such a great job of being there for every moment, but not being the annoying person there for every moment. And they've created really great relationships. And those relationships have kind of evolved as new players come on. They see how we interact with the players before them, and they really buy in. We get them pictures. We have amazing photography and amazing video that we help supply for them too, so they don't have to always do it themselves. And I think they're really starting to see the value that we bring to the table for them too.
I think that's really a great point. And certainly I liked your point from the beginning where you said we're not the annoying, ask anymore. Can we please come in with a huge camera and take pictures of you for our social channel, right? It sounds like you're seamlessly integrating them into the strategy, but then I liked also how you said that you're saying to them, you're putting them first. Like, we're going to help you with your business, right? As you help us grow our business. And that has to be the right way to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, we want to elevate their brand. We want to tell their story, and the stories that they have and the culture that they manifest in that locker room. It You're seeing it now. Like Dwayne Wade's coming out with a book next week, and like it's like all of his Miami Heat moments. The culture here is amazing, and it's transformative to a lot of players. But to be able to have that history and to have that documented, I think people are really starting to see the value in it now. And I think the younger players, huge credit to them, and huge credit to like these college athletes that are coming out and creating a brand for themselves. But I think the teams are there to help do it. We're not the enemy. We're here to be the aid here, and that's how we look at it. And it's a partnership. So, you know, we get brushed off every once in a while and everything, but they're really great. And our basketball operations team helps us facilitate it. Our ownership, our CEO, Nick Garrison, is a huge proponent of it because he knows that building a brand for the players having a brand, and the team having a brand is a really mutual beneficial relationship.
Absolutely. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the naming rights, the partner on the venue, right? So this is something I looked at before the interview. I was interested in it. And, for cryptocurrency, right? A cryptocurrency partner to have naming rights on a venue is a big deal. But I read an article that talked a little bit about how the athletes really embrace this. And I thought that was really interesting. So can I connect the dots between what you're saying and how the business down in Miami that you guys are running is really a partnership with the athletes? Can you talk a little bit about how that naming rights, venue naming rights partner might play into that as well?
Yeah, I mean, well, you'll see FTX in the marketplace. I mean, the Tom Brady's are being signed. Udonis Haslam, our OG player, has signed with them and partnered with them. They're really looking into getting in with our fans and acknowledge that the fans, especially in Miami, where the city is really becoming, it's going through a tech boom, and the mayor has really dedicated efforts to bring crypto into the city. So it was really like an aligning of the stars. And it was a really great opportunity that we leaned into too, as market leaders, and really trying to be as innovative and on the cutting edge. I mean, they really couldn't have been a better partner for us. So we're excited about it. The players are excited about it too, because I mean, as you've seen this past year or two, crypto is going through an enormous boom, and the ownership of FTX, the CEO and founder, is extremely progressive, and has really like leaned into every opportunity that we've put in front of him, and he's put some opportunities in front of us too, and we're just really excited about where it goes.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I'm excited to see where it goes as well. And I think a lot of people, obviously, you know this, a lot of people are talking about that, right? Especially in the, in the view of people that are selling partnerships, involved with partnership sales, like, getting involved with crypto partners and things like that. So I think it's great you guys are sort of out ahead there. And it will be interesting to see how they integrate it into the day-to-day of the venue, right? I mean, I think that there's so much that could happen there. It's a little frightening, but like there's so much that could go on there.
We're excited too. They're the perfect partner to help us go from that like crawl, walk, run strategy. They're definitely in our future roadmap. We're going to be partners with them for a really long time, and I think they're going to help us get there. It's not just going to be we'll collect crypto or we'll accept crypto. We really want to create meaningful relationships along the way, and we don't want to rush it. We want to build it out, and we want to build it out how it makes sense. And I think as two organizations, our goals really do align. So it's a really great partnership that I think everybody will win from.
That's awesome. Your leadership journey, right? Let's skip, backwards a little bit here. So anybody who makes it to the top, whether they're a man or a woman in the sports industry, which is highly competitive, right? And 24/7, especially if you work for a team like you do, Lauren. People typically have a strategy, right? I talk to a lot of women that have made it to the top. I'm curious, what are some of your personal strategies on the business side? What has helped you get to where you are today to stay in the game, right? Literally stay in the game throughout and have a long career in the business? What kind of, what's done it for you? What are your secrets? What are your tricks?
Well, I don't even know. I don't know that I would say I had a strategy, but I do always remember a conversation that I had with my dad, who he was a manager, but I don't think he always like really loved the manager side, but he got it. And one of the conversations that he had for me was that like, learn all that you can do and then teach all the people behind you, because when those people can do what you can do, then you're ready to move on to that next position. So, obviously when you're first starting out, like you are the executor, you're the gopher, you're the gatherer, you're the collector, you're the doer. But when you have these little opportunities to have people around you and really start to build the parts and build the team, it's so important to pick people that complement your strengths and compensate for your weaknesses. And my boss always says too that he always hired people that were smarter than him, because that's what made him look smarter. So those are two things that I definitely always had in my mind, and I truly take it to heart, because I would never ask for a promotion, or I would never ask for that next step if I didn't know that somebody could do what I'm currently doing. And I think that always made me feel really confident and prepared when I went into a conversation of growth. The other things is I've always been kind of a student. I've always wanted to learn, and always open myself up to learning, because the more that I can put the full picture together, I think it helps me identify where there's gaps and where I can fill those gaps. So learning other parts of the business, even though it's not necessarily my job, understanding how it affects my job and how I can affect that part of the business was always something really important. And then exactly what I said, if I found a gap and I could be part of that solution, I always brought that to the table, because it made me more valuable. And I would raise my hand and I'd say, I'd like to lead this, or I'd like to be a part of it. Whenever there's a committee, I try to be a part of it, because it's an opportunity to learn. And those are the things that I think have just guided my growth, and that I always keep in the back of my head and see if what I'm doing is aligning with those things.
Really smart. You hit on a bunch of different things. I hear a lot of this too. I mean, be curious, be intellectually curious. It Raven Jemison said that. She's with the Bucks. Be intellectually curious and always be learning. So that's a great point. Looking for gaps, raising your hand. When I interviewed Priya Narasimhan from Yinscam, that was her thing. You know, if you raise your hand and you speak up in a meeting, you're in. It was so powerful, right? You're showing that you want to be part of that conversation. So that one I've heard before.
And
The one
don't
I,
have the fear. Don't have the fear. Like, you don't
yeah,
always say the right thing, but guess what? Neither do men, and
yeah,
neither do people that just raise their hand to raise their hand. I mean, if you think you have a valid point, or if you have a question, like, raise your hand, because
right.
at least you're having your voice heard. You're engaged in a conversation. Those that sit there quiet usually get passed over.
Yes,
So yeah, for sure, be part of that conversation.
100%. But my favorite piece of advice that you gave, which you said was from your dad, which I love, you know, is learn everything you can learn and then teach everyone, you know, that's maybe newer than you or greener than you so that you can move up. I circled that a bunch of times on my paper because what it said to me, I mean, what I felt when you said that was, you know, there are a lot of people that don't want to give up responsibility. If they've gotten it, they've
What a
earned
land
it,
grab.
they
Yeah.
don't know how to give it away, right? And I don't know what that's based on. It's probably different for a lot of people, but the quicker you master something, the quicker you understand that, you know, now you can delegate that so that you can make space for bigger things and better things and the promotion. That's great advice. I really love that because it frees you up, right? And it shows that you're in growth mode and you're also an educator. You're also teaching people and building a really great team. I'm sure that everyone on your team is probably really happy that you're their boss, right? Because
I hope so.
for you to lead with that for me is really great. I'm happy that you brought that up.
Yeah. And to me, I mean, growth isn't just promotions and salary and stuff like that. I mean, if there's anything that I can take on and have a positive effect on the organization, it's a great story to tell, and it's a great growth moment for you, and something that I'll always be able to reference back and show that this is where I started and this is where I'm going. And that journey along the way is just as important as any title that you might have or any raise that you might get.
Absolutely. My favorite segment, story time. And you shared something classic, you know, when I asked you to, you know, share a funny story, when I got your response, I was laughing because I knew we were going to
Usually
talk
the
about
response.
it.
So it makes me cry a little bit.
So you shared prior to the interview that you did many internships before you got into the business and you're formally in a full-time position. But you enjoyed the experience that not many people have of being a mascot, right? So you were a mascot for the DC United for a while. You said, I learned what I did not ever want to do again, which made me laugh.
Just as valuable of knowing what you want to do as what you don't want to do.
Right, right. Will you share a little bit about your experience as a mascot? Maybe share with us your favorite memory in the role, or maybe your least favorite memory in the role.
Well, thankfully, I only had to do it one time.
Oh,
One time. Um, but yeah, the interns there, I was part of an awesome intern group, people I'm still friends with and keep in contact today. But it was the intern's job. We didn't have a full-time mascot, which in the NBA we have a full-time mascot, and there is no disrespect for what they do. Actually, I have an enormous amount of respect for what they do because it's freaking amazing.
yeah.
But it is not for me. I am not qualified and I am not cut out to be a mascot. So I was a summer intern, lucky me. And I drew the short straw to be Talon, the mascot, for a summer reading event that was both indoor and outdoor. And now experiencing a Miami summer, a lot of Miami summers, I don't know what I was complaining about then, but the heat index for this event was 104 degrees. And somebody had an event the day before, so they were in that suit. And so I remember bringing this mascot suit home. My roommate is like, what is that? Spraying it with Febreze and hanging it on my balcony, which is probably a huge no-no in the mascot world. Like, I don't like just like let an eagle hang out on your balcony where, like, you know, in DC where like people walk by all the time. But yeah, I had to wear that. I remember putting a like a handkerchief or whatever, like a bandana over my face because it smelled so wretched. It was awful. I mean, I don't know the last time it was cleaned. It was terrible. And I had to meet Marion Barry, who was like the councilman at the time, very disgraced councilman. Like the president of the DC United was there. I made sure to give him a hug as the Eagle. But I mean, it requires like this high energy, and it was 100, it was like this soul sucking day. Like I was so hot, I thought I was going to pass out. And I never wanted to do that again. And at the time I was probably a little too vocal about the fact that that was the most horrible part of the internship. But again, I take it as a learning experience. I tried it out, and I was much more qualified to do some other things in the community relations space for DC United.
And you can say you did it, and it kind of, it makes me cringe now in the world that we're living in today, right?
Yeah.
That you went home and at least you sprayed it with Febreze, right? I mean, I don't know what they're doing now. I'm guessing they are.
Usually you like hire a mascot. They do it professionally. They are good at it. They know how to like engage with people without talking. That was not me. I'm a big talker. I like to talk, and putting a mask on for a bunch of kids and not being able to, it was really, I mean, I give a lot of credit to mascots.
That was hard for you on many levels.
So hard. But again, learning experience. I take everything, I put it together, and I tell that story. Sometimes I forget about that, and then like something about DC will come up, and I'm like, oh, remember that time? And I could probably bond with that with all of the people that I work with.
Yeah, that's funny.
I hope they have a full-time mascot now, though. I don't know for sure. I haven't really kept up, but
I hope they do too. Someone who is willing and volunteering.
It was an unpaid internship, by the way. I was unpaid.
Yeah, and I don't know at what point that became like something that was looked down upon, because when we were coming up in the industry, certainly doing internships, we were not paid, and we were happy to do it. And then at some point they flipped the switch on that, and it was, you have to pay them now, right? You have to pay.
That makes sense. I'm kind of mad. It does for myself, right?
we missed the
what did it take? What did that take? So yes, our interns are now paid and learning, and we actually have an incredible internship program at the Heat. There's usually like a showcase. You get teamed up with people that maybe aren't in your discipline, but you do projects that are things that the organization is looking on the forefront to do. So you do a lot of that research, and then you present in front of the senior leadership team, where we vote on a team that we actually do their project. And we've had some really great success, and a ton of interns turn into part-time, full-time staff, and have really succeeded at the organization. So it's really great. I have nothing but good things to say about my internship. It led to me where I was today, but that one experience.
Yeah.
We'll leave that as a good story.
It's a great story. It's great. Women in sports. So as you know, WINS was built to elevate and inspire more women, right? More moms like us, parents, not just moms, to break in and stay in the industry, make it to the C-suite. Okay, so that's been my personal mission, is elevating the visibility of women so that we can have more in the C-suite. Because if you've listened to any of the previous episodes, I lead with this very bleak statistic that says approximately 21% of C-suite executives are women in the big 4 US professional sports leagues, which includes the league offices, which includes the teams. Okay. And it's really not much different outside of the big 4 when we get into things like gaming. I talked to Caroline Savini. She's like, the numbers are basically the same. We looked at motorsports last week. It was way worse. Okay.
All that.
But that's the mission. And you share with me pre-interview that you attribute your success as a mom and a sports business executive partly to the Heat, because you said they never made me choose between the two, which I think is awesome, that you say that. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, on the day-to-day for you? How have they made it easier for you to manage those two things? And how can, we use this conversation to inspire other organizations to follow suit in making the C-suite more accessible to women, with young children, with families, who have a lot, of responsibility?
Sure. Well, first, obviously, prior to joining the Heat, I was not in this stage of life. And I just kind of always looked around me, and we had a lot of women in leadership at the Flyers and stuff. And they were in a different stage of life too. A lot of them were a lot younger, and some of them chose not to have families. Others weren't there yet in that stage either. But like, you just didn't see it. And the only people that had families were the men in the leadership or the leadership, because the women were able to take care of them. So I wasn't in that stage that I was like planning my family. I was single and whatnot, but I didn't have that example. And I just kind of always thought, because of how many hours I worked, how irregular it was at the hours and things like that. And sometimes it was 7 days a week and in social and digital, like it is. So I had this conception all along that I would, if I ever became a mom, I was not going to continue with the career path. When I got to the Heat, I saw a lot different of a picture. My boss that hired me had 5 children, and they came to every game. Like, they had their traditions that they came, they ate dinner together, and they came to every game as they were growing up. He was with the organization forever. He's with the organization forever. But there's also other women in leadership, and everybody's picture looks a little different. But I mean, there was our chief legal counsel, Raquel Liebman, and our now executive vice president and chief of human capital, Kim Stone. They have their families, and they're very busy. At the time, Kim Stone was a GM of the building, so she was always there. But her son came too, and if she had to do something with her son, like, the village stepped up. My current boss, Jen Alvarez, has 2 kids. Our chief of culture has a child, and all of them have their journeys that are a little different, but they all kind of like set the foundation for me. So when it came time for me to have kids and stuff, I had my son, and again, I still wasn't really sure how I was going to do this, but my boss was just like, "You just do it. If you can't work a game, you can't work a game." Like, and our CMO Michael, my boss, don't worry about it. We have people, they'll step up, and my team is also amazing. So I remember when I had my son, I got flowers sent to me in the hospital from our president. And I remember writing a thank you letter to him, obviously for the flowers, but I put in that note that, like, thank you so much, because I didn't think I would ever have a career in sports and be able to be a mom. And your thought process and your leadership made that possible. And I'm so grateful. I mean, and even recently, as recently as 2019, when I had my daughter, our maternity leaves are fully paid. We have paternity leave now. I have somebody on my team that just had a kid last week, and he's having 6 weeks of paid paternity leave. Like, it's amazing. Like, they're at the forefront, and it's a huge benefit. And you don't see that across sport. Clearly, we're seeing the conversations in the news now, but it's a really hot topic, and we're so far behind so many other countries and businesses. So I'm glad to say I'm a part of that and on the forefront.
Yeah. I mean, I got emotional during that story. And I mean, you told it so well, but the story of sending the thank you note, and thank you for making this easy for me. I mean, that's so powerful. It makes me breathe like this huge sigh of relief, that was your experience. I'm so happy that was your experience. I'm so happy you didn't have to choose. I think it's really, it says a lot, when you say the village steps up. That's
Yeah, it's so much like taking
amazing.
care of a kid. You say, like, the relatives, the parents, the friends, everybody steps up and helps you. But it's so true in the other parts of your life. They support you with it. And it's amazing. And I'm so happy to tell those stories, because
Yeah.
if somebody else can go to their organization, or if some other person goes and advocates for that for themselves, I mean, I hope that the Heat can be an example for them.
Yeah, definitely. And you can be an example. So, the experience that you
Yeah.
have, I'm sure other women have it across the industry, but when we listen to you talk, we listen to you say social media is 24/7. It's every day. I know that. I know that so well. When you talked about, when you started at the GM of the building, I don't know if it's still a woman, but was a woman.
Not she well Now she is our chief of human capital, so she put herself in a position to come back and have that positive change, because she knows how important that is to the organization too. And she's trying. I mean, we're going through an insane time. Everybody's going through an insane time with turnover, the great resignation, and all of that. And she's a big part of putting us back on the map of a leader in the sports industry. Like, people want to come work for the Heat, and they want to come work for the Heat because of the principles that we have in front of us. And
Yeah.
again, she's the right person to do it. So really excited about that.
That's amazing. That's incredible. It just makes me think, just to take a step back. I mean, people in the sports industry are competitive people. Okay. They've worked so hard. They've competed so hard, right? Men and women, to get to where they are. A lot of people compete and then they wave the flag, right? And for whatever reason, and I'm not being judgmental, but when you've gotten to a certain place as a woman and you are making that decision consciously that you're going to start a family, and you have that fear that am I going to have to make a choice? That's very real. And when you're a competitive person, like many of us are who have been in this business for a long time, it's such a battle. And it's such this moment of, am I going to feel like a failure if I throw in the towel here? So it's such a moment in time, the way you describe that, and saying, they were so supportive, the team was so supportive, the village steps up for all of us. Yeah, I love that story so much. So thank you for sharing
Well,
that.
let me take it a step further then, because what I want to say is during the pandemic, obviously there was kids home from school. There was a lot of people that were kind of forced into these situations that they weren't otherwise used to. And what we saw during that, I mean, everybody became very intimately familiar with my children on conference calls and virtual fans when the team was in the bubble and stuff like that. They were sitting on my lap while we were doing virtual fans. So they were on TV all the time. But that became normalized. And I think it became normalized with a lot of things, but it was never an issue. Like I could be on a client call, or I could be on with our chief revenue officer, chief commercial officer, and my kid is pushing a high chair like across behind me, and there was just chaos that was ensued, and it was okay. And it was okay if I was having a really overwhelming day and I had to step away. And they put into place, and I took advantage of this because I needed it, because sometimes I lean too far in and I need to pull myself back. But they had stress management courses. They talked about burnout. Like the MBA also did a great job and hosted teams with sports psychologists and really talking about how the effect of the pandemic and stress that everything was going on, and moms, dads, people living alone had to go through. But I took a lot from that, and I took a lot about my own personal boundaries and stuff that I needed to set for myself, and like when I needed to separate work from home, or, my personal life and stuff. So they gave me the tools, and that was something like never too old to learn that. I learned that I had boundaries kind of like in my head that I never clearly defined to anybody. And I started getting upset with people like, why are they messaging me at this time? Well, I was always available at that time. So why wouldn't they? So I've gotten better at telling people what my boundaries are. And that's been such a lifesaver for me, such a lifesaver.
Yeah, that's
But they gave me the tools for that. And I'm forever grateful for that, because I'm a better person. I'm a better professional for that too.
yeah. Well, I can certainly feel that confidence that comes from you when you're kind of talking about the business, when you're talking about this stuff. It's very clear that you are in an environment that's very supportive, right? And you are in an environment where it seems balanced, right? You have a balance, which is something that is so hard to find, whether you're a parent or not, in sports
So
and entertainment. So for you to kind of talk about it, in such a way that it's been possible for you to have a balance. They've given you courses for stress and all that stuff. That's amazing.
yeah,
Okay.
it's unbelievable. Very
Right.
thankful for that.
So, final question. So part of the mission of Wins is to build a network of women where we can celebrate our wins together and support each other and cheer each other on. As women have been for a very long time in the minority in this business, and everyone has a separate experience, but when there aren't that many women around, there isn't really sort of a coalition, so to speak. And in many cases it could be more of a competition than a coalition, right? And so part of my mission is to create this network where we cheer each other on. So I'd love for you to share with us a win that you're working toward, whether that's personal or professional, so that we can support you.
Yeah. Well, I think what I kind of just said, like I'm on this journey to really keep bettering myself, right? And part of that is being, when I'm on work. But if my kid needs me, and really just being able to like turn it off and turn it on when I need to, and communicate when I need help. I think I've also learned that like saying I need help or that I can't do something right now is not making me a bad worker or a bad person. It's making me a better teammate. If I don't have time to do it, or I don't have the capacity to do it, and I get the help that I need, then we're going to do it a lot better than if I struggle through it myself. And I try to be that resource for all my employees and everybody that I work with. I try to be that person too, but especially for women, because I think that sometimes they don't feel that confidence and empowerment to be able to say it themselves. And I've gotten better. I've gotten better to say, I need help prioritizing this. I mean, if you want to get this done, then something else might have to fall off there. And it's a tough conversation to have with people because everybody wants to feel that their stuff is more important. And I'm in a service business. I have to service internal clients all the time. But to be able to have a realistic conversation like that and be able to feel confident enough in a room to say, like, I know what you have to do is really important. I just have to put it in line, or this is how I have to accomplish it, the best way I can accomplish this. Those are the types of conversations I want to continue to get better at. I want to continue to evolve in, and then hopefully teach everybody behind me too, and give them the confidence. I have a lot of like entry level employees coming in now. Like, we have a lot of new staff, and if they can see me in a meeting say that out loud, I don't have to say it behind closed doors. I can say it out loud and feel okay about that. Hopefully that'll encourage them too to feel that empowerment and have that confidence to say it too.
I love that goal. I love the way you kind of express that. Kudos to you. Congratulations on all your success. Congratulations on making it to where you are today. I'm sure we will see so much more from you,
Thank you so much.
in the future. And thank you so much for sharing all of this wisdom with us today.
Of course, I hope it was wisdom. I hope somebody learned something new aside from me being a mascot. But
I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone who is here today learned a lot. So thank you so much, Lauren, for your time. And again, we are here cheering you on as you continue to grow as a leader in this industry.
Thank you. Can't wait to be part of the WINS network and help anybody that comes along. Very excited about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren.
You got it.